So one of the things that I've been fascinated to find out is how a man comes here with nothing and with no one, knowing a tiny bit of Russian, all kinds of Hebrew and Aramaic and Yiddish, very well educated in religious subjects, not in the secular world. And a decade later, he's a dentist, married, has a son. And I don't know how he did that. I really don't. I'm starting to get a little bit of hints from other people, but he never wrote about it. And his autobiography is called Roots, the American title, My Jewish Roots. And then his second volume is called Branches. And there was to be a third volume called Fruit, from what I always was told and understood. And when this summer, I was in New York City at YIVO studying Yiddish, and I went and looked at his archives. And one of the things I really wanted to find was whether there was a sketch of that third volume, because his first two whole volumes of his autobiography were all about his childhood up through his teen years, and then he gets on the boat for America, and then it's done. And so I was hoping for an outline, for a sketch, for a little vignette that was later going to be incorporated into Fruit, something of how did he meet my grandmother. More, I got a little bit here or there, a detail or two, but some from her actually. But how did that process of becoming an American work for him? What did he experience in New York? Did he experience anti-Semitism? Who helped him? You know, because clearly he must have had some help getting from house painter to dentist. I found a little essay that was to be read when Branches came out, called Roots, Branches, and Fruit, and I was so excited. And I struggled through the Yiddish. I still read slowly. And I read, here's where I'm going to find out what his plan is for book 3. It was a talk to be given in Buenos Aires when the book came out, but he wasn't able to travel down there in the fact, so he actually never delivered this talk. And in the paper, he talks about the Shtetl. He talks about how the Shtetl, and this is one of the themes that comes up in several of his writings, how the Shtetl life was undervalued, how people of his generation characterized the old world as blotte in spirit and in physical conditions, physical and spiritual conditions. It was grubby. Really. And what it is the people came here and they wanted a better life for themselves. They wanted to put the old life behind them and everything associated with it. But he believed that the Shtetl was a jewel, a moral jewel, even though physical conditions were very, very difficult there, even though they were oppressed politically, but that the life of the Shtetl was a good life. The communities were good communities of good people, and he idealized it really in many ways, I think. And the talk is all about how he came to realize these thoughts in himself, that all of his peers were always putting it down, and there almost wasn't room to write about the Shtetl in the way that he wanted to honor it. And he could only do it indirectly through folk stories, he says in this talk. But that finally, now as an older man, he was able to really write about the Shtetl the way he wanted to. And so that was when he started to write Roots and Branches. And in looking at this, that was when I realized I was never going to get my autobiography of how he made it in America, because that wasn't why he set about writing his autobiography in the first place. He wrote his autobiography, these beautiful stories about the old world, as an homage to that world, not as really a story about himself.